August 1628. With flags flying in full sail, the Vasa, latest warship to join the Swedish fleet, set out on her maiden voyage. She never reached the open sea. From their windows from the crowded quayside, the people of Stockholm saw her capsize and sink within minutes of setting sail. For over 300 years, the Vasa was to lie, lost and forgotten, somewhere at the bottom of the harbor. 1956. A diver descends into the murky waters. All he knows is that pieces of blackened oak have been brought up from something lying 100 feet down in the mud. The Vasa, held fast in her grave of silt and slime, had been found. The first finds to surface were proof enough that she was not just a hulk of rotted timber. Now began one of the most elaborate salvage operations ever carried out. It took 3 years to raise the Vasa clear of the seabed and move her to shallow water. Another 2 to shore up the damaged stern and make her watertight, ready for floating into dry dock. Miraculously, she was still in one piece. Throughout the move, her timbers had held. But now they were exposed and vulnerable. Once start to dry out and they would warp and crack. The hull would begin to disintegrate, and a unique relic could still be lost. A constant stream of water was played over her. For the summer and autumn, she was safe. But when winter came, she would need an air-conditioned berth. For the archaeologists who swarmed aboard her, it was a race against time. 700 tons of mud to be cleared to relieve pressure on the hull, not just sluiced away, but sifted for treasures. 16,000 pieces found, pieces of a jigsaw puzzle which would one day not only give a clue as to why she sank, but illuminate a whole period, the period of Sweden's rise to power in Europe. Hundreds more pieces recovered from the harbor, many of them sculptures, such a remarkable feature of the Vasa's elaborate decoration. Exposed only briefly to the light of day, they were stored away in a cave to await restoration. Here they were to lie in a watery limbo till a technique of preservation had been tested and proved, a technique which would one day enable the Vasa to be completely reconstructed. By 1962, the work of preservation was well in hand. A laboratory had been built close by, dominated by two great tanks, each over 60 feet long. Described and marked, weighed and measured, every piece of wood from the most elaborate carving to the most insignificant sliver of timber was to lie immersed in preserving fluid for at least a year. The tanks fill with water, pumps started circulating, and the temperature is gradually raised. Over the centuries, the waters of the Baltic have chemically changed the outer layer of the wood. This layer would flake, the wood crack and shrink beyond repair if it were to dry without treatment. The damaged cells must be reinforced and protected from attack by fungi and insects. A substance had to be found that could diffuse through the wood cells, forcing out the water, and set hard, able to penetrate both hardwood and sapwood, yet leave it free to breathe during the final drying. The problem was unique. The chemists had no previous experience to guide them. They were to try several materials before they found the answer. Samples from test wood showed that there was one substance that met all the exacting demands. Their choice? A versatile product of petroleum widely used in industry. Used as a lubricant in the forming of metals, as a base for ointments, hand creams and lipsticks. Used in electroplating, in the casting of turbine blades and instrument parts. In the manufacture of printing inks, pencils, cellulose tape and cork. Used to strengthen man-made fibers, even to soften bread and cakes. Now to preserve the Vasa, polyethylene glycol. The waxy stuff will slowly penetrate the wood, congeal and set hard, reinforcing the honeycomb of cells and preserving the original shape. During the long routine of preservation, much else has to be done. Many finds still wait their turn for meticulous examination. Here, interest is centered on the opening of a barrel, its contents a mystery until this anxious moment. A sailor's possessions for life aboard. His money, over 100 coins, some cut square from copper strips. The baked clay of this stoneware pot survived unchanged and remarkably intact, unlike the barrel itself, which will have to be stored away to wait its turn for treatment. After a year in the tanks, the pieces of wood are removed to be slowly dried out, the final stage of preservation. The finds and the hull itself are housed in a working museum, a temporary home where visitors from all over the world can see the work of restoration. As more and more relics move from the laboratory to the museum, a picture emerges of life aboard a 17th century warship. One day, 5, 10, 15 years from now, the Vasa will be complete, and perhaps the mystery of her fate will have been solved. With her 64 cannon and the wealth of sculpture on her stern castle, she must surely have been a top-heavy and unstable ship. Whatever the faults in her design, the Vasa remains a brilliant example of 17th century craftsmanship. She is the oldest fully identified ship. Her hull, the largest single wooden object ever recovered to challenge the skill of restorers. Never allowed to dry out since the day it first surfaced in Stockholm harbour, it must lie for years under a mist of polyethylene glycol.